Ladies and male birthing persons, we find ourselves gathered here today in a moment of great despair and deep sorrow. It is with a heavy heart that we lay to rest the mainstream media career of Bomani Jones. Oh, the Bobo holds a special place in our hearts. No one did failure like Bomani Jones. For the first time in his career, Bomani Jones has been fired. Mythical racism could not save him. The evil white man has finally prevailed. Our Tuesday mornings have forever been ruined. There will be no more laughing. There will be no more joy as we react to another week of embarrassing ratings for Bomani Jones. At this time, I ask that you hold the cucumber of the birthing person next to you as we bow our heads, praying to the oak tree as we remember the failed media career of Bomani Jones. Oh, the Bobo has finally bitten the dust. My God! This took forever. This should have happened a decade ago. It's been quite a while since we have talked about the originator of the Huge Embarrassing Failure, the odds-on favorite to win the first annual Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards, which will be taking place later this year. Last year, Bomani Jones was regularly talked about and featured here on the channel. We had a blast talking about all of his epic failures. But this year, I have barely mentioned the Bobo. His second season of Failure on HBO aired from, I think it was January to about March of this year. If I remember correctly, we only talked about Bomani Jones once or twice. Matter of fact, his absence on the channel was so noticeable, I had someone reach out to me a few weeks ago asking why I was ignoring Bomani Jones. Apparently, Bomani Jones was feeling a bit neglected. After 2 years of being the most talked about failure, the Bobo started having feelings of jealousy. He saw how much we were talking about the Titanic-sized failure at CNN. He saw how much time we were dedicating to the failure of Don Lemon, Bud Light, Target, Jamel Hill, Chris Cuomo. Hey, it's me, Chrissy C. Hell, 2023 has been the year of the Huge Embarrassing Failure. When you have been the undefeated champion of failure for as long as Bomani Jones, you have a tendency to get a bit complacent. You have a tendency to start underestimating your opponents. You start feeling invincible. You start believing that no one has the ability to take your crown. No one can outfail me. I'm Bomani Jones. For the first time in his career, 2023 has given Bomani Jones major challenges for the title of Huge Embarrassing Failure. There have been so many epic failures this year, Bomani Jones has essentially been forgotten. Until today. This afternoon, HBO announced that they were suspending the woke welfare of Bomani Jones. Translation: his ass was fired. Now, this is unfamiliar territory for the Bobo. Throughout his media career, this dude's never been fired. He simply gets reassigned. You see, in the past, it was a violation of the woke commandments to fire someone like Bomani Jones. Firing him would be a direct violation of the first commandment, thou shalt not commit mythical racism. Now, this is just speculation on my part, but maybe with the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action, maybe that has given media companies like ESPN and HBO some balls. Now that it's no longer legal to give an unqualified dumbass millions of dollars to not draw an audience, maybe their legal departments have stepped in and advised them to give the job to someone who's actually qualified. To be honest with you, I was actually surprised earlier this afternoon when I found out Bomani Jones' media career was being buried in the woke cemetery. Obviously, I wasn't surprised by the reasoning. The Bobo consistently ranked outside the top 150 on cable. This loser couldn't draw an audience when he was following Bill Maher and John Oliver. Hell, TNT put Bobo on before NBA games. He couldn't draw an audience. My inside sources tell me HBO was so desperate at one point, they were offering millions of people free annual subscriptions if they watched every episode of Bomani Jones. Every single offer was returned to sender. Some customers, they even offered HBO some feedback. One guy told HBO he would rather watch a cow being milked by a baboon than be subjected to the musings of a grade A shitfuck. Now, I know the vast majority of my audience has never watched Bomani Jones. I would imagine most of you never heard of him before until I started talking about his failure here on the channel. Since you've never seen the Bobo in action, let me show you what you've been missing. The following clip. This is what Bomani Jones calls comedy. This is the type of content he was giving HBO every Friday night. Watch for yourself.
Now, the Community Justice Exchange? Oh, they some gangsters. I truly do not believe the NFL has ever talked to this organization, met with this organization, or even Googled this organization, let alone donated to it. Because the Community Justice Exchange advocates for some wild shit. Organizing to end all forms of incarceration. Ending all forms of incarceration? Like, you mean like everybody? Nazis? Jared from Subway?
Is it any wonder why this loser was fired? This is why I always say it's impossible to please the shit fucks. The NFL donates millions of dollars to organizations that specialize in climaxing the woke boner. And for some reason, Bomani Jones, he criticizes them for it. Is it any wonder why this dude consistently lost 80% of Bill Maher's audience? People watch Bill Maher because they know they're going to be entertained. Bill Maher is a funny dude. Imagine being entertained for an hour by Bill Maher and then HBO transitions to Bomani Jones. Is it any wonder why people change the channel? The reason I was surprised by HBO firing Bomani Jones, this is unprecedented. Throughout his career, this dude has been immune to accountability. Networks have never blamed the Bobo for being a failure. It was just expected. HBO should have canceled this show last year, but they were willing to give the Bobo a second chance. They invested millions of dollars into this show, and ratings for season 2 were far worse than season 1. The handful of horny men who spanked their wanker to BJ, they were somewhat disappointed when HBO suspended his woke welfare. But they were okay, there were no tears shed because they knew they could count on ESPN to give them their weekly dose of Bomani Jones. Now, of course, they would have to adjust their viewing habits. One advantage HBO gave lovers of Bomani Jones was the convenience of watching him on television. ESPN, they're not willing to do that, because ESPN's so overrun with star power. Stars like Mina Kimes, Stephen A. Smith, and, well, that's about it. The worldwide leader in woke, they tried Bobo on TV in the past, so it wasn't for a lack of effort. Bomani Jones, he just couldn't draw an audience. The worldwide leader gave him a consolation prize, though. They allowed him to continue collecting money that he hasn't earned, and they gave him a podcast. The show is titled Right Time to Be a Failure. It features Bomani Jones talking to lesser-known failures like Dominique Foxworth, the dude with a feminine name that looks like a squirrel and acts like a girl. Right Time to Be a Failure. It's uploaded 2, maybe 3 times a week on ESPN's YouTube channel. Initially, ESPN was allowing the Bobo to upload to his own YouTube channel, but after he posted 59 videos over 5 or 6 months, gaining just 590 subscribers and 11,000 views, ESPN thought Bobo would get more exposure on their channel. Now keep in mind, ESPN has almost 10 million subscribers. Every time Bomani Jones uploads a video, it's reaching millions of people. How many people watch? On average, between 10 and 20,000. There are more people watching my channel than watching Bomani Jones on ESPN's YouTube channel. This could be one of the many reasons ESPN could be firing the Bobo at the end of the summer. If this report is true, I'm actually going to give ESPN some credit here. Like I told you guys last week, one of my biggest problems with the recent layoffs at ESPN was their failure to include Bomani Jones. All the people they laid off had one thing in common. They weren't moving the needle. No one fails to move the needle like Bomani Jones. According to Outkick, who supposedly has an inside source at ESPN, the network is planning to let Bomani Jones' contract expire in August. The only possibility of him remaining at ESPN is if he agrees to take less money. How many times have I told you ESPN's losing money with Bomani Jones? How many times have I said that? This could be one of those rare cases where someone actually agrees to take less money to remain at a network. Because ESPN's got all the leverage here. The Bobo has no leverage. Think about it. If Bomani Jones leaves ESPN, where's he going to go? Who's going to hire him? This dude has a long resume of failure. Local radio, failure. ESPN radio, failure. Podcasting, failure. ESPN television, failure. HBO, failure. This dude has been a part of the mainstream media for over 10 years. He has never succeeded at anything, not once. Not one time has Bomani Jones been a part of something successful. So who's going to hire him? At this point, Bomani Jones should be paying ESPN for the right to work there. They should be sending him an invoice every 2 weeks instead of a paycheck. If ESPN lets him walk next month, the media career of Bomani Jones is over. When HBO announced they were firing him, Outkick reached out to Bomani Jones for comment. He told Outkick, "I'm busy, peasant. Reach out to my representative." Outkick contacted the supposed rep for Bomani Jones. The number was disconnected. This dude's media career is over. The sympathy money has run out. Like I've said many times before, the sympathy money, it can only last for so long. Bomani Jones has been given multiple opportunities because of his fake marginalized status. Anyone else who failed this much, they would have been fired 10 years ago. Bomani Jones built his media career on sympathy and mythical racism. In other words, he built his career on a gimmick. The thing is, the Bobo couldn't even capitalize on mythical racism. Remember a couple of years ago, the business of mythical racism was booming. Joy Reid, Tiffany Cross, Jamel Hill, they were making millions of dollars by exploiting their own community. Not Bomani Jones. This dude's like the WNBA. He can always find different ways to lose money. The reason Bomani Jones is a huge embarrassing failure, he lacks the two things you need to build an audience: charisma, relatability. Bomani Jones has neither. It's going to be interesting to see if this latest failure is enough for Bomani Jones to maintain his title of huge embarrassing failure. I'm going to leave the end result up to you guys later this year. We've seen a lot of failure this year, but overall, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone, any organization that has failed more than Bomani Jones. No one does failure like Bomani Jones. There's actually a small part of me that might even miss the Bobo. We've had a good time over the last couple of years laughing at his expense. I guess all good failures must come to an end sooner or later. I don't know. I guess it was nice knowing you, Bomani Jones. When I see you at the corner of Bodega in a couple of years holding up the sign that says, "We'll work for Woke Wiener," I'll be sure to throw you a couple of pesos. But give me your thoughts. HBO finally comes to their senses, fires Bomani Jones. ESPN likely going to fire him next month. Bomani Jones' media career, is it finally over? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.